I'm drowning in my history, prisoner of past defeats. Tell me what the future holds. Tell me, baby. Terrified of things to come. Paralyzed, I can't.
It seems that comebacks are very much in vogue these days, with tired, middle-aged, balding blokes like me wittering on about the good old days and thinking that no matter how many comb-overs new kids on the block have, they just won't be able to recapture that nostalgia. So, what with Johnny Sega's re-release of yet another Sonic collection featuring everything that Johnny Public already owns, I've been tasked to look at the original Sonic to see if it still holds up today, or if it's just like an old episode of EastEnders which gives you a warm fuzzy dose of nostalgia but should be left in the past. The first Sonic will always be a mixed bag for me. On one hand, it sold truckloads of Mega Drives back in the day and won all kinds of awards and critical adulation. On the other hand, as much as I like this game, it has gotten on a bit in years, and I do feel that just like my Auntie Kim having a psychiatric evaluation, it's sadly lacking in some areas. Blue Hedgehog bloke Sonic is out to stop the evil Dr. Robotnik, who wants to create an army of killer robots, take over the world and build a chain of Primark stores. Sonic must use his speed, attitude and of course his trademark power sneakers, moves and guile to platform his way through 6 tricky zones to reach the Mad Doctor. The graphics are spot on, the music and sound are phenomenal. In fact, this first foray into Sonic isn't bad at all. However, playing it now, I find it to be as slippery as my local council trying to overcharge me for services I didn't even partake in. Moving Sonic is fine, but many of the game's levels just throw way too much at you right away, with enemies seemingly just appearing out of nowhere. Now, admittedly, I'm not the world's best Sonic player, but that sense of speed Sega wants you to achieve is all too many times very brief here, with only 2 or 3 zones which gives you a chance to go at a blistering pace. The only way I could realistically get through Sonic was to really take things at a very slow pace, which although helped me to explore areas a lot more carefully, I found that by using the speed gimmick, it would only get me killed quicker, and with many of the zones slowing our hero down anyway, I decided to err on the side of caution. So in my humble opinion, playing this like you would play Mario is probably the best way to go, as I do feel there's a massive imbalance in the level design where you'll speed the little blue bloke up, but he'll fall at the last hurdle due to there being too many gimmicks. Now please, before the Sega Mega Drive cult members come out to my house to tie me down and sacrifice me to the god Shinobi, I don't hate this game. I just feel it's a little bit too over-reliant on trying to stop Sonic when really a bit more flexibility would help things be a bit more bearable. Take the Marble Zone for example. Now this is a zone I really enjoy for the most part. I mean, the first act makes you go underground, which is pretty cool. However, the second act makes you go underground twice, which I've never understood. I mean, why? I've already dealt with the traps and crazy gimmicks, and now Sega wants me to do it all again? Jimmy Hill. Then you have the Labyrinth Zone, which slows down Sonic to the pace of an old age pensioner crawling through mud trying to get to the local post office. Now, I'm all for challenge, but the acts are way longer than they need to be and just overuse the same tied spear gimmicks and annoying enemy patterns. Then the game does a 180 on you and makes you think you must bash up old Robo just like in the other zones, when really the gimmick is to try and avoid the spears, flames and to try to get to the surface before Sonic's air runs down. Or just check out the final zone, Scrap Brain. Oh my god. We have giant circular saws, electricity, collapsing platforms, spinning travelators and a whole host of nasties wanting to leave the imprints of their feet on Sonic's behind. Yes, it's just like an average shopping trip to Wolverhampton. If you can manage to get through these 2 crazy acts, then guess what, you must go underwater again. The whole experience had me reaching for the phone to call the Samaritans, but luckily before I could get through to the lovely Candice to have a nice wee chat about doing the garden, I was finally able to pull myself up by my bootstraps and power through for a final showdown with big moustache clever bloke Robotnik. Top work, evil bloke, nice place you've got here. If you can somehow beat his booty, then Sonic can rid the land of Robotnik forever, or at least until the sequel, and catch the last Domino Genesis tour he's been wanting to see for so long. Amongst the tricky platforming you have to enjoy, you can at least pick up some cheeky power-ups to improve Sonic's situation. No, they don't have the power to bulk him up with a few chicken vindaloos, or even get him a date with Kim Basinger, but they will help tip the tables in his favour at least briefly. Grab the invincibility and old Sonic will be temporarily immune to enemy attacks or nasty traps. Getting the shoes allows him to move even faster than he would do normally, but with the nature of the tricky level design I tend to avoid the shoes as they only get me killed quicker. Find a ring shield however, and this will give Sonic an extra hit and help him keep any rings he has collected a wee bit longer. Not only will it all help go into Sonic's prudential pension plan, but also collecting over 50 and making it to the end of most acts results in being able to enter a tricky bonus round where he can get dizzy and hopefully pick up a cheeky Chaos Emerald. Find them all, get the real ending, and the bragging rights will be yours. You see, if Sonic has rings then he can take an extra hit. If he takes damage then he will lose any rings he has collected. But if you're quick enough to collect the rings from the debris that you've just encountered, then you might be able to grab one or two before they vanish. And as long as you have at least one ring, then Sonic can't really die from an enemy attack. Despite my issues with Sonic the Hedgehog, I did still kind of enjoy it. Again, I don't hate the game, but just feel it's just a little too frustrating in parts with its overuse of traps, enemies and gimmicks. I know that hindsight is a wonderful thing and I can see why Sonic got all that praise back in the day, but as a standalone title I feel it can be a bit tiresome at times. Now with the greatest respect to Sega, in fairness this was the first Sonic title and they really didn't have a Sonic template yet. However, Sonic 2 and 3 would seriously make everyone stand up and take notice, as the levels in those two games are designed much more for Sonic's speed than the ones in this first outing. The controls however are spot on and I feel just as good as ever. Sonic can spin attack, roll into a ball and get some serious height on the springs he encounters. It's just the game throws you into a speedy situation and again either blocks you off by halting your momentum or by having you accidentally fly off the screen to your death, which is why if you're going to play Sonic today I would recommend sacrificing his speed and slowing things down to at least be able to deal with the many things that are thrown at you. Sonic the Hedgehog is a good game, but compared to Sonic 2 and 3 there's really no competition, as those games fix the flaws that this one has and are a lot more enjoyable, sadly. Okay, while I wait for Johnny Sega to send the lads round to my gaff to give me a good kicking for my controversial comments, I'll bid you farewell, where next week I'll be discussing the age-old philosophical question: if the Mitchell brothers nutted Ian Beale and no one was around, would Ian make a sound? I'll see you next time for some more Retro Pow.
I'm drowning in my head.